I've done a lot of thinking today about what it is that I'm doing. And I've come to the realization that I'm not really trying to start a new religion. I'm trying to do something that is even more powerful than that. I'm trying to create a new form of common sense. I want to explain what it is that I mean by that. So, throughout my life, this same theme has come up again and again. It's bridging psychology and spirituality. And this is really what inspires me. This is what gives me life, and this is what a lot of my videos on this channel are about. It's trying to bridge the gap between the psychological, secular, scientific, modern worldview and the spiritual, intuitive, cosmic worldview that many religions and spiritual traditions are pointing to. And I've been trying, I think, really since I was a teenager. I really started to recognize, the need for this and my personal interest in this. I've been trying to bridge these and bring them together. And kind of where I am in my own understanding, my own integration of these two seemingly separate worlds is I see psychology and spirituality lying on a gradient, where psychology, as the Western psychology as we now conceive of it, is primarily focused. It's kind of up here. It's more surface level, so to speak, and spirituality is kind of deeper in the human psyche. I'm not saying that spirituality is better than psychology. Each of them are functioning in similar but overlapping domains, where psychology and spirituality, there's no dividing line between them. If you notice, if you ever try to figure out what is the difference between psychology and spirituality, it is very difficult to get clarity on this, because they are actually, I believe, they are part of a holistic gradient of the inner world. And to this point, if you look at actually what the root word of psychology is, psyche, in Greek it means soul. And so psychology, really what it is the study of the soul. Spirituality is a study of the spirit. And, there could be a whole other video about what the difference between spirit and soul is, but essentially you can kind of think of them as almost the same thing. They also there is an interesting distinction between them, but essentially they're dealing what is most essential to us, to being human, to living in the world, to connecting with the universe. And so reframing this separation of psychology over here, spirituality over there, to flipping it on its side and saying, psychology is really good for helping us develop, our ability to interact in our society, to have a sense of emotional balance and cohesion, to be able to essentially live and be productive and be functional. It comes from, it's a very much more mind-based and logical and rational way of working with the inner world. And spirituality is a much more it's a much more intuitive way of working with the inner world. It deals with the unconscious mostly. The psychology, for the most part, deals with the conscious, although depth psychology, like Freud, like Jung, really were interested in these lower regions. Most of psychology today focuses on the conscious mind, on the parts of our mind and our emotions and our thoughts that we are consciously aware of. Now, the spiritual dimension, this is where it gets interesting. This is where where religions, kind of religious experience happens, mystical experience happens, near-death experience, archetypal, imagery and forces and energies a lot of really cool and interesting stuff happens in the spiritual depths. But one of my central premises, one of the central things that has become really apparent to me is that the psychological world and the spiritual world are inextricably connected. In fact, they are one and the same world, except they're the inner world. They're the world of consciousness. They're the world of human consciousness. And when this like flip happens, when we can start to really see this and recognize this connectivity, this connection as common sense, things change. The world suddenly coheres and comes together and integrates in this really beautiful way, where suddenly it's no longer the separation of mind and rationality and the scientific world, the secular world, and the supernatural, the mysterious, the religious, the faith-based. It's actually becomes this gradient of human inner experience. And what I believe humanity needs right now, and I don't mean I'm not this is not hyperbole. I think that what we as a species need is a new way to make meaning, to make sense of what reality even is, and how do we as human beings live in it in the modern world, in the 21st century and the 22nd century and the 23rd century and beyond. We are at a point in human history where we need to make a major paradigm shift if we hope to survive, if we hope to continue to live in a way that is cohesive and makes sense. And the reason being why we need this to happen is because globalization, the way in which the human civilization has reached a point of interconnectedness, the technology and transportation and all of the ways in which basically what happens on one side of the world impacts what happens on the other side of the world. We are creating this global interconnected network and sphere of intelligence and consciousness and interdependent existence. What this has led to is an overlap of not only our economic systems and our military, systems and our, language systems and all this other stuff. It's also led to an overlap and a clash of our belief systems. And this has been, this is an ongoing process. This has been going on for hundreds and thousands of years. But it's getting to a point where we can no longer ignore the fact that we have been believing somewhat similar but mostly different things about the universe for as long as we've been around. And it's gotten to the point where we need to come together. We need to come together and find a way to believe more or less the same underlying thing. If this global tribe, if this global community is really going to cohere and come together and start working together for our own survival as well as the good and survival of our whole planet and our whole biosphere. Because the way that things are going now, we are still very much in this back and forth, this tribalism, this competition, and it extends. This is seen in religious conflict and conflicts of belief. It extends to economic conflict. It extends to conflict between classes. It extends to all of these different ways in which we compete against one another. rather than work together as a global tribe, as a global family. The fuel on the fire of this problem right now is that we are getting too powerful. We are getting our technology, our tools. We are tool-making creatures. Our tools are getting so immensely powerful that we are threatening our own survival, our own relevance, our own control over the course of what is going to happen on planet Earth. And there are lots of different visions of what AI is going to do, how this is going to direct the course of the world, if one country is going to get on top of the others, if we're going to democratize it somehow. I think that this is primarily not a question. The future of our species and the future of this planet is not a question so much of who, the kind of technology race that's going on. It's not a question of the arms race that's going on. It's really the future of our planet is going to be determined by determined by the consciousness that we are able to collectively share. And what I really mean by this, underneath that, just to make it real simple, what I mean by collective consciousness is essentially common sense. What common sense is going to dominate in the collective minds, the collective conscious and subconscious of the human race? If the common sense that dominates is one of competition, of battle against one another, of one victor over another, of we have to keep doing this or we're going to die, then we are dooming ourselves to repeat the mistakes of the past. We are dooming ourselves to repeat the narrow survival mind, ego mind. It's me. I got to take care of me, my family, my country is my stuff. I need to survive. And if everyone thinks like that, that creates separation. That creates a kind of free-for-all that really produces the conflict that we see, not only on the global scale, but also this is where conflict comes from between friends, between business partners, between romantic partners, husband and wife. This is where this comes from. It is a power struggle that emerges because of this self-centeredness, because the common sense that is driving our behavior, our actions, our beliefs, our thoughts, our words is survival. I need to survive. I need to take care of myself to the exclusion of others and the rest of my surroundings. This is not sustainable. This is not a sustainable consciousness to build a civilization on, much less one that is so incredibly interconnected and powerful as ours is becoming. So the good news, I think, the good news is that we are already in the process of this consciousness shift. We are already in this process of a kind of collective awakening, a kind of collective blooming of the mind. And this is not something that any one person has to be the standard holder, hold the flag and charge and create a new religion, a new philosophy to make this happen. In fact, doing that is probably going to be really just playing into those old patterns of it's my way, I have the truth, let me tell you what it is. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If Judaism tried that, Christianity came along and Jesus tried that, and then everyone was like, no, this is the new truth. And then Islam came along. It's like, well, actually, Allah, our God is both of your gods. It all kind of fits together, Muhammad was saying, right? And the Jews and the Christians were like, no, actually, we don't think so. And they got into all this big fighting. You see this over and over and over again, where people come trying to bring the truth. And they have real insight into the truth. They have really glimpsed it, I believe. In most cases, most spiritual leaders that really catch on, they at least begin with an understanding of this holism. They begin with this understanding of this unity and this fundamental equality that exists between all peoples, all races, all eras of history. There is a fundamental equality at play. And all the different traditions, all the different religions, all the different philosophies and ways of thinking, all the different indigenous traditions and others that have come along, they're all ways that human beings have tried to make sense of the mystery, the divine mystery, the mystery of existence. What the hell are we doing here? What is this place? What shores of what world? And so every culture has created its own stories, its own ways of meaning making, its own ways of making sense of this all. And the issue is they've done it in isolation, and they've kind of embedded the truth, the real insight of actually, no, there is a living, interconnected presence and energy all around us. And this is not supernatural. I'm talking about something that is quite natural. God, yeah, and I can hear some hardcore atheists just rolling their eyes right now. But I don't have enough time to explain really just how natural this is. But it is. What religions are describing is nature itself. The confusion comes. Oh man, this is so rich. Everyone is coming to their own understandings of the world, right? All over the globe. And they're having these real mystical, real spiritual clarity moments of, oh, wow, I get it. But the way in which they express it, or the way that others maybe interpret it, is through the lens of that culture. Is through the lens of, the language and the symbols and the imagery that, this oceanic tribe, let's say, uses, or this desert, dwelling tribe uses, or that, those people in the mountains, and they, everyone uses what they have to make sense of, to tell stories, to communicate to others who maybe have not had this peak experience, who maybe have not had a direct experience of kind of the unified consciousness of existence. God, I hate talking like that sometimes. It makes it sound so much more abstract and complicated than it is. But anyway, they try to explain this to other people using the symbols and language and of their culture. And then people become attached to those and think that, oh, this book, this myth, this story, this hero, this is the true version. Ours is. Our people represent and are aligned with the true truth of reality. And this has happened hundreds and thousands of times across the planet over and over and over again. This genuine insight and then this attachment to an identification with a very specific embodiment, cultural expression of these truths. Now, this cultural expression of these truths, when they meet others, when they find another belief system, another people that worship another god, they come in conflict. They come into conflict not only in a kind of metaphysical and philosophical sense. Usually they come into conflict primarily over much more practical considerations: land, resources, food, all this kind of stuff, water. So this pattern continues, and it's been continuing for thousands of years. And the way that these the real hope that we have, I think, in overriding this competitive survival instinct for land, for resources, for food, for water, for all this stuff that we need to survive as living beings, is the insights, is the true consciousness that really were the kernels of these religious and spiritual belief systems that form the kind of heart of different cultures and different peoples around the world. What's sad and what is tragic is that these very systems of belief that have sprung up have also become weaponized against one another, that also look at one another and say, we don't recognize that. That's not the name of God. We know the name of God. Or, kind of indigenous or land-based people say, like, I don't know what you're talking about, a God. I see everything as living. I see everything as communicating and speaking to me. Something like a more contemplative tradition, like Buddhism, for example, would be like, no, there is no God. It is just consciousness. It is just being. And all of these traditions, all of these perspectives reveal and have something that is, they've got their own view on the truth. They're looking at the same thing. They're looking at the same universe and the same phenomena and experiences that every human being pretty much has had that has ever lived. They're pointing to and looking at this from these different angles, and all of them have a point. All of them have a part of the truth. All of these traditions are gateways and doorways to essentially the same thing, which is, ta-da, this reality. Yes, it is. They're all leading right here. All roads lead to here and now, the present moment. I'm doing a lot of talking today. So, what is it that I'm trying to do? I am trying to basically make this common sense, make this understanding common sense that, we are all actually working with the same data. None of us really knows what lies behind the veil. No one really knows, who created all this? How was all this created? We're learning, we're coming to understand this universe. And I don't know if we'll ever know. I don't know if that's possible to know. And most importantly, I don't know if it matters. I don't know if it actually matters. What matters is, how do we relate to the mystery? And how do we relate to one another amidst the mystery? That is what really matters. And when it becomes common sense that that tradition over there is looking at the same thing as you are from a different perspective, and they have wisdom and truths that you don't have that could be useful to listen to, and vice versa. And we start to realize and recognize and make, believe just that it's common sense that, this tribe over here, this people, this country, this ethnicity or race is just as human as I am. is has a wealth and a richness of cultural experience, of historical experience that can contribute to the collective wealth of humanity. When that starts to become commonsensical, I don't know if that's a word, but when that starts to become common sense, it suddenly becomes so much easier for this global tribe to come together. It's become so much easier to recognize each other as one family. And instead of being in this kind of power struggle, like so many siblings trying to like grab the inheritance of some wealthy parents, Sky Daddy and Earth Mama, as my wife likes to call them, instead of this power grab situation, recognizing, we are all the inheritors of this world, of this planet and this universe, and also collectively, the collective history and wealth of humanity and everything that we have produced. Suddenly, we turn, instead of kind of against each other, we turn and we are able to stand side by side as brothers and as sisters. And instead of being against one another, we become against the problem. We become against the issues that we face, the issues of scarcity, the issues of hunger, the issues of, how do we make sure that everyone gets taken care of? How do we make sure that everyone has, the kind of opportunity to allow their gifts, their genius, their unique talents to come forward and come out into the world? Because the more that we can do that, the richer our world is going to be. The more that every human being has the opportunity to offer to their tribe, offer to their family, their best, the very thing that they feel like were put on this earth to do, quote unquote, put on this earth to do, suddenly lives become fulfilling, lives become meaningful, and everyone, in terms of efficiency, in terms of who is doing what work, who is contributing in what ways to society, to the global, to the global family, suddenly becomes so much easier. People aren't thrust into positions that they don't really care about and don't want to be doing. Everyone is performing at their best because it gives them joy to show up in the ways that they do. So, what I am trying to do with this channel, with my life's work, is to try and bridge psychology and spirituality, but on a deeper level, on a broader level. What I hope that translates to is a new form of common sense, a new operating system that is not separate from the old operating systems, but rather sees the old operating systems, the old religions, the old philosophies, the old mythologies, the old land-based traditions, all of this, and recognizes that, we need all of this ancient wisdom. We need to bring that forward, and we need to combine it and make it somehow integrated with this new scientific, intellectual, technological understanding of the world. What does it now mean that we understand that we're part of a solar system? We go around a sun. There was a big bang explosion of energy 14 billion years ago, and all of this seems to be kind of arising from this explosion of space and energy. What does all this mean? How do we make sense of, all of our belief systems now? We can't ignore what science is showing us about the world. So many traditions, have such a hard time accepting the scientific and secular point of view, and vice versa. there is a disconnect between the scientific and secular-minded people, which includes, I think, a lot of psychology and psychologists. At least, that's kind of the dominant approach to psychology. It's kind of a secular or at least agnostic point of view. There is a disconnect from the deeper wisdom, the spiritual and religious wisdom that people have been working with for thousands of years. This is what Carl Jung was talking about when he was really researching the different folk tales, mythologies, and religions around the world, and saying, hey, like, there seem to be these patterns, there seem to be these archetypes, there seem to be this kind of deeper wisdom that people were orienting their lives around. We should probably pay attention to this, because this is showing up in our dreams, this is showing up in our art, this is showing up in our modern society. And once we realize and recognize that, this new stuff, this new intellectual understanding, secular scientific understanding, is actually, it cannot be separated from these deeper layers of human experience, that we need to understand and integrate the whole spectrum. That's where real fulfillment and a really holistic life and a really holistic civilization can arise from. Because in a sense, I don't think we can really go back to the way things used to be, unless society collapses, and some people imagine that it might, or even hope that it might. But I think the cat's out of the box at this point. I think that if we are to continue to see this, have this globalization happen, this global coming together, which is, as Yuval Noah Harari points out, is not a recent thing. This is not the past 100 or 200 years that this globalization has been happening. This is a process that's been ongoing for thousands of years, like possibly even tens or thousands of years. This is a migration, a movement towards global unity that really, I think, is fundamental to our species. And I think it is the way that we are going to progress as a planet. The challenge that we now face is, can we integrate our belief systems? Can we integrate our mind and our heart and our soul? Can we integrate our societies into this global tribe where we share our resources, share our wisdom, share our knowledge, and instead of going against each other, grabbing the inheritance from Sky Daddy and Earth Mama and just all that stuff in the middle, aligning and standing side by side, brothers and sisters, one family, and march together to solve the problems that we have. That is the kind of common sense that I want to create in the world. And I think that I'm not the only one. And I started this video by saying that, I'm not out to start a new religion. I'm actually I'm looking to do something more powerful than that. Because when, a religion essentially is a belief system, it's something that you kind of have to take in. You kind of have to believe it. You kind of have to, you can argue about it. Is this true? Is this not true? Common sense is something that is more fundamental. It is something that is just taken, it's just plain. It is just obvious. And it becomes the air that we breathe. It becomes the water that we swim in. And when this kind of togetherness, this kind of cooperation, this kind of love and mutual respect becomes the air we breathe and the water we swim in, there is nothing more powerful than that. And that's the world that I want to live in. So if this resonates with you, if this is the kind of world that you want, appreciate if you subscribe, comment your thoughts in the comments below, and reach out if this moves you and this resonates, because I'm looking for others that feel and believe, that this is possible, and that this is the calling of this era of our history.